All right. Good morning, everyone. Actually, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to all those that have joined us this afternoon for our UTSA CAP session during our virtual UTSA Day experience. For those joining in, we want to thank you for sharing your Saturday with us. And my name is Beverly Woodson Day. I'm your Senior Director of Undergraduate Admissions, and I'll be your moderator this morning, this afternoon. So I'd like to take a moment to say that we know this COVID-19 has changed our world. It impacts how we connect with our friends and our families, our loved ones, and even people that we don't know. So with that, please, with thankfulness, we're thankful that you're allowing us to be in your homes this morning, connecting with us virtually. And so on behalf of UTSA, thank you for sharing this day with us. We're all in this together. So this afternoon, we'll be listening to some UTSA representatives. They'll be monitoring the chat. So if you have questions, please make sure you go into the chat box and And if you can't find that, that's going to be at the bottom in a little bubble area. If you click on that, you can put your questions in there. For those that are joining us by phone, you won't be able to do that, but you will be able to go to future.utsa.edu/discover/question. And at that point, you can leave a question for us and we will get back to you as soon as we can throughout the day. So just a quick reminder, please make sure you mute your mics, your camera, and that way we won't have any distractions as the presenters are coming on. So now let me introduce our presenters and get started. We have with us today, we'll have Lisa Alonso with orientation. We'll have Amber Aboud and Luis Ramos with financial aid, and then Sabina Kapoor with academic advising. And I will be providing some information on the recruitment side. So without further ado, we will get started. So for many of you, you may have been getting information on completing your file. What you need to do there is make sure you pay your fee. And so that is going to be important because May 1 will be the deadline to have your file complete. How do I do that? One of the things that you can do is pay your $70 application fee, and you can do that by mail, by doing a check or money order, or you can even go online and pay by logging into your ASAP account and clicking on Future Roadrunner tab, and then click on your admission status, select the term, and then scroll to the bottom to pay. You would use your ASAP, and that means you need to have your ABC 123, or as we say, my UTSA account ID. So make sure you have those and log in. You can also submit your FAFSA to UTSA or provide the student aid report, the SAR, indicating your Pell eligibility. So the last piece is if you're needing to submit a fee waiver, you want to submit an ACT or ACT fee waiver with one of the official documents that provide evidence that you are qualified for this. So one of those could be Ward of State, documentation that you live in subsidized housing, documentation that you receive public assistance, or even providing your tax transcript from the IRS. So you can get that to us by email or mail. And all of this information can be found at future.utsa.edu/admissions/application-fee-waiver. And I'll put that in the chat box for you all to see if you need to complete that. Also be mindful that this session for CAP will be a summer 5-week term, and it is through July 22nd through August the 7th, and all courses will be online, so just be mindful of that. So you'll hear more information about this. Also know that there's a CAP website that you can go to that may answer some of these questions. If for some reason we might have missed it or you still have further questions, it's future.utsa.edu/admissions/CAP. So I will put both of those, both the CAP website as well as the fee waiver information in the chat box. So now I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Alonso.
Thanks, Hello, everyone, and welcome again to UTSA Day. My name is Lisa Alonso, and I'm the Senior Director for New Student Programs and Events. And my job is to produce events like UTSA Day, New Student Orientation, and I also have the great opportunity to work with UTSA ambassadors and the orientation leaders. I'm super excited to talk to you today about New Student Orientation. At UTSA, orientation is a requirement. And in order for a CAP student to sign up for an orientation program, you have to have already paid your app fee. Once your app fee is paid, you will be eligible to sign up for online orientation. At this time, online orientation is our only option available due to COVID-19. As much as we would love to meet you in person and orient you, we have to have your safety in mind. So online orientation is the way we're going this summer. Online orientation consists of a series of modules, and it takes about 90 minutes to complete if you go straight through the experience. The online program we've designed to help make you more successful in your academic and student success as you start your first semester at UTSA. Once you complete your online orientation, you'll have to take a final quiz, and then a couple of things will happen. The first thing is your orientation hold will be outdated. The second thing is that your academic advisor will be reaching out to you to schedule a virtual advising appointment. During that virtual advising appointment, you will visit about your summer and your fall classes, and you'll learn a little bit more about how to register for them online. If we could go to the next slide, Beverly, that'd be great. Awesome. So now that we've reviewed online orientation, we want to get you signed up for a program. So the first thing you need to do is you need to navigate over to ASAP and log into this account. Now this will probably look very familiar to you. You need to use your My UTSA ID and your passphrase. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, once you get into ASAP, you want to navigate over to your Future Roadrunner tab. You want to click on that, and then you will go to Admitted Student, and that's where you'll see the ability to sign up for orientation. When you click on that, you will have to re-log in again using your My UTSA ID and your passphrase, and that will get you logged into the reservation system. Once you log into the reservation system, you will be able to select the one orientation program that is open, which is online orientation. Signing up for online orientation will provide you with some more information about how to access the online experience. And so what you see in the slide here is what it'll look like for you once you select online orientation, and then the additional information, which is the instructions and the link. You can take that link and put it into your browser, and then that will bring up online orientation for you. All right, so once in online orientation, like we said, it takes about 90 minutes to complete, and we want to encourage you to invite your family members to sit with you while you do this. The neat thing about online orientation is that you can access it as much as you like from wherever you like in the convenience of your home, your mobile phone, or your desktop. And you can share it with your family so they can get oriented to UTSA as well. We'll have time for questions at the end of the session, but if you have questions after virtual UTSA Day, you can contact us at our office, our virtual office at orientation@utsa.edu, or you can give us a call and we'll return your call as soon as possible. All right, thanks so much, and I'm going to turn it over at this time to Amber for financial aid.
All right, thank you so much, Lisa. My name is Amber, everyone, and I'm a senior officer at UTSA's Financial Aid and Scholarships Office. So thank you for tuning in to our remote presentation today. I'm going to talk to you now about how to apply for financial aid, what some of your financial aid options might be as a CAP student, and then some important financial aid reminders. So if we go to the next slide, we're going to jump right in on how to apply for financial aid. So everyone who is interested in financial aid must fill out the FAFSA, and this stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. You will need to submit the FAFSA most likely for any university that you're interested in attending in order to qualify for aid. And you can choose up to 10 universities that you want to send your application to. So for your first year, specifically as a CAP student, you'll want to choose UTSA to get financial aid with our institution for your first year as a CAP student. And your first step to completing the FAFSA and applying for financial aid is to create that FSA ID. You can do this by going to that link there. It's the fsaid.ed.gov. It will require that you have your name, your social security number, and your date of birth. And you want to keep this ID on hand because you're going to use your FSA ID to submit the FAFSA every single year. And if you do end up having to borrow student loans when you're in school, you will use your FSA ID also to keep track of your loan borrowing history on the National Student Loan Database. So your FSA ID is something that you do as a one-time thing. You create your ID and that's going to be with you for life. And you'll use your FSA ID in order to complete the FAFSA every single year. So once your FSA ID is created, then you'll travel on over to the second step there, which is the FAFSA.gov website, and you'll go through the federal application for aid. Every public university requires a FAFSA on file in order to qualify for most of your grants and scholarships, which are your free aid. So it's very important that you keep track of dates and deadlines for submitting the FAFSA. It does open October 1st every single year for the subsequent year. So for example, for the upcoming fall semester that's coming up, fall of 2020, the FAFSA opened back in October of 2019. And for the fall of 2021, which seems like far away, but the FAFSA will open at the end of this year, October 1st. So just keep that in mind. If you're attending UTSA this year, but you're attending another university like UT Austin next year, you still will have to submit your FAFSA application to the university that you're interested in. So let's move to the next slide. You can see as a CAP student, you'll be starting classes in the summer term. And so in order to get financial aid for summer, you'll need to fill out the 2019-2020 FAFSA. And this is because UTSA considers the summer term to be a part of the fall 2019 and spring 2020 academic year. And we put a little note there that you need to submit your FAFSA by June 30th. So even though you'll be starting classes in July and August, you do need to make sure that if you want financial aid for summer, that you submit that FAFSA by June 30th is the last possible date. For the upcoming fall semester, you'll want to fill out the 2020-2021 FAFSA. It's kind of a mouthful, but that is the FAFSA that's going to allow you to get financial aid for fall and spring. For the summer term, as you can see there, you'll need 2017 tax information. And then for the fall and the spring, you will need 2018 tax information. And the FAFSA does give you the option to transfer all of your tax information directly from the IRS. So we recommend that you use that tool if it asks you, and if you can, if you're eligible, that way you can ensure all of your tax information is being transferred over correctly. Now moving on to the next slide, we're going to talk about what type of aid you can qualify for as a CAP student. By you filling out your FAFSA, CAP students can qualify for federal aid such as Pell Grants and direct loans. Your Pell Grants are free money that you don't have to pay back, and your eligibility is calculated based on that tax information that you supplied when you filled out the FAFSA. You can also qualify for direct loans. These loans are not credit-based and they usually have a lower interest rate. So they're a good option for students who are needing additional financial assistance. And any student who's enrolled at least half-time and is degree seeking, which based on your CAP schedule, you should be, then you would qualify for federal student loans. And the last type of aid that I have listed there is going to be external scholarships. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about that. But these are the three main financial options for CAP students who are attending UTSA for their first year. So moving to the next slide. If you take a look at UTSA's scholarship webpage, because scholarships are a very, very hot topic for financial aid, you will see a link for outside scholarships particularly, and UTSA has taken the liberty of compiling a list of external scholarship databases for you, and these are what we've determined are the most common and trusted database websites. I would highly recommend, at least from my end, that you create a separate email account for scholarship databases, because once you sign up, they'll start sending you a lot of emails in regards to scholarship opportunities. So you can keep that separate from your normal email communication. But we definitely want to encourage students to take advantage of scholarship opportunities outside of UTSA. But we always say that you need to be constantly aware of what type of information that you're supplying. It's really important to be aware that when you're applying for any type of scholarship, especially if it's outside of UTSA, that you're not giving them any personal information like your social security number or your banking information. They shouldn't be asking you for that type of info. And you also never want to pay to apply for a scholarship. So if you're submitting an application and they're asking for payment, then you can consider that not a good scholarship option for you. But scholarships are very proactive types of awards. That means that students need to submit a separate application for them. So if you haven't checked out our scholarship page, take a moment to do that soon and start applying for scholarships through those databases that we have listed. On to the next slide. One of the biggest questions that we get is, how do I view and accept my financial aid awards? Or how do I know that I've been awarded financial aid? All your financial aid activity for awards is going to be done through the student portal ASAP. You can log in, you'll click on the financial aid tab, you'll see a series of links come up, and you'll want to click on the award link. And then once you do that, you'll see another series of links come up, and that's going to be award by aid year. And then you're going to choose from the drop-down menu the aid year that you're interested in viewing. So for the upcoming fall semester, for example, like we said, the FAFSA is a yearly application that you submit. And so for the upcoming fall, if you choose 2020, 2021, you're going to see another page pop up, and it's going to have a tab that says accept award offer. And that is the page that's going to show you the awards that you've been offered and how you can accept or decline your awards. Now that we're talking about ASAP, I do also want to say that financial aid paperwork is very important, and it needs to be submitted as soon as possible. And so you can find all of your paperwork requirements also on the financial aid tab. And when you were looking at the award link, you should have also seen another link that says eligibility. And that's going to show you a list of all of your outstanding requirements for financial aid. It's very important that you submit your paperwork on time to ensure that your financial aid applies to your account. So for the upcoming fall semester, for example, our disbursement date is going to be August 14th. So you want to make sure that you have all of your paperwork in before that date, preferably before July 1st, which is our priority deadline, to ensure that your financial aid is going to disperse to your account for the fall semester. Every student that is getting financial aid at UTSA is going to have some sort of requirement on their account. So be checking your ASAP to see what your requirements are and submit that paperwork to the One Stop Enrollment Center. Speaking of paperwork, due to COVID-19, the university, as we've said, is currently closed. So can't meet with anyone in person to submit paperwork. So we're telling students to utilize our financial aid document uploader. You can access this on the One Stop Financial Aid Forms webpage, and you'll see a link for document uploader. You can also mail paperwork to the university, but the turnaround time is a little bit higher rather than just submitting the documents online. So again, we're encouraging you to go out there through the document uploader if you can and submit the documents. That way they go directly to the processors electronically. And that sums up my general information that I have about financial aid. If you ever have any additional questions about financial aid, please don't hesitate to reach out to our customer service staff, which is our One Stop Enrollment Center. They're open normal business hours, Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. And you can contact them by phone. They have a live chat. You can create a video. You can have a video appointment session with them, or you can email them at onestop@utsa.edu. So thanks again, everyone. And I am going to hand it on off now to the academic advising.
Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining. My name is Sabina Kapoor, and I am the director of one of our undergraduate advising centers called Student Placement Advising. And I'm speaking on behalf of the undergraduate advising today, and so hopefully I'll be able to address some of the questions and debunk some myths as we move forward. So if we can get started, there we go. So this slide kind of explains a little bit about how students or CAP participants are coming into UTSA. So CAP is the priority, I understand. And so the thing is that students are coming into UTSA based on their intended UT Austin major. So both universities have been working together and identifying what is the equivalent UTSA major to that UT Austin major. And if there's not an equivalent, for example, we don't have aeronautical engineering, that CAP student will default to exploratory as the major. Now, just like our traditional roadrunners, CAP participants are expected to follow policy and protocol at UTSA during their CAP year. And one of those things is to see if a student is eligible. Some majors have their own set of requirements that the student has had to have met in order to actually say that that's their major. And CAP participants, for them, they must still follow that policy, which means that if the student is not eligible to say this particular major is, they're eligible, then they'll be tagged to that corresponding studies. And that's kind of in the weeds explanation, but it just helps, all that to say, it helps the student funnel which advising center at UTSA that student will be working with. The CAP student will get an assigned advisor, and that advisor is going to work with them throughout their CAP year. We can go to the next slide. So as Lisa and Beverly have mentioned, the CAP year will begin with this second summer session. And I know we've had CAP students that have asked, well, do I have to do the second summer session? Could I start the first part of summer? Or can I just skip the summer altogether and go into the fall? And the answer is no, the CAP student must start the second part of the summer, which, as Beverly mentioned, begins July 2nd. That is part of the CAP agreement. And the good thing, though, is that all the courses are in the summer are being offered online. So there is a strong convenience factor for the CAP participant. They can take the course or courses during the summer and do it remotely. They don't have to physically be on campus. So that might be a big convenient factor for our CAP participants to know about. The other thing that we want to mention, and this is per UT Austin, is that we don't want the CAP student to take any college level courses. This is, after graduation, any college level courses at another institution. We want to have the CAP student start their college career this second part of the summer with UTSA. And that is per UT Austin. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, I've taken AP or dual credit or IB or early college or some program where while you were in high school, you got college credit. That's okay. We're talking about taking college courses after high school graduation. If we can go to the next slide. I want to touch on what exactly are the CAP academic requirements, and this is established as per UT Austin. First requirement is to complete 30 credit hours at the participating institution, and in this case it would be UTSA. The second requirement is to have an institutional GPA of at least a 3.2. And that means that UT Austin doesn't accept any transfer credits that's below a C-. But if you do the math quickly in your head, you'll know that in order to get a 3.2 GPA, that CAP participant cannot afford to have a C or C-. It's got to be pretty much majority A's and B's in order to get that GPA. The other requirement that a CAP student must fulfill is to complete one math course on the approved, what we call approved CAP list. This is a list of courses that UT Austin has approved to say that the CAP participant can take. Our UTSA advisors, we are aware of that list. We all have copies of that list, so we know what the requirements are, so that's good. So when the student meets with their advisor, we'll get to go over that and apply that and kind of see which courses from that list the student should take throughout their CAP year. If we go to the next slide, this is a breakdown of how many credit hours the student should take and at which semester. So 6 credit hours to be taken the second summer session, which would start in July. And then no more, no less than that. And then in the fall, the student is to take about 9 credit hours. That's roughly 3 courses. Each course, the majority of courses here at UTSA are valued at 3 credit hours. So knowing that in the summer, that would be about 2 courses. For the fall, that's about 3 courses. And for the spring, 15 credit hours is roughly about 5 classes. So when we add up all of the credit hours, we come out with 30 credit hours at the end of the spring semester, which will then be the end of the CAP year. Now, something to make a note about, and Beverly, I'm sorry, can you go back to the previous slide? If not, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, thank you, Beverly. So looking back at this, something that I do want to mention is specifically the 30 hours and the 3.2 GPA is based on the performance at the participating UT system school, in this case, UTSA, sorry. So what that means is we have a lot of CAP students that will bring AP, dual credit, IB credit, early college credit. Basically, they're bringing college level credits with them as part of earning those college credits during their high school career. Now, those credits will definitely be able to help the student in the long run. But UT Austin wants these 30 credit hours and 3.2 GPA to have been earned as a true, like a freshman at an institution. So while these AP dual credits, early college credits, et cetera, can help in the long run, they will not be applied towards the 30 credit hours and the 3.2 GPA. So if we go one more. Okay, so now one of the things is throughout the years, academic advising at UTSA, we want to be very clear with what our role is going to be and how we're going to help the CAP student. As the first bullet shows, we are going to help the student make sure that the CAP student understands their academic requirements, but also to look at the approved CAP list and what courses are appropriate for that student to take. What is appropriate for one student may not necessarily be a good class combination for another student. So the advisor is going to work with each CAP student on an individual basis. And to help the student, sometimes we see that CAP participants mentally think that their college career actually begins when they transition to UT Austin and become a Longhorn. But the truth is their college career actually begins with the CAP year at the participating institution. So here at UTSA, we want to help CAP students know how campus resources can help them in the classroom and also outside the classroom. Campus resources to help in the classroom, something simple as we have structured study groups for certain courses. And these resources are to help the student, not because they're behind and they're trying to catch up, but to use these resources to stay ahead. So research shows that students consistently use these resources, they do earn higher grades than those students that don't. And that's including structured study groups. That's including tutorials, excuse me. Those are including peer mentoring. So these are resources that will help the students on campus, I mean, in the classroom, but we also have resources at UTSA to help that student assimilate from a high school senior to a university student. We have student organizations that have a wide range. Students can join organizations based on their career goals after graduation, based on on religious affiliation, based on getting involved with UTSA Spirit. There's a wide range of resources. And again, research shows that when students are involved in some type of student organization, even just one, then they actually are more committed to their college courses and doing well, and they actually earn higher grades. So this is really important. So what are some appropriate student organizations and other campus resources for that CAP student? That's when the advisor can introduce those on a case by case to see what could work best for that student. And of course, we want to guide the student, as the third bullet shows, a successful transition to UT Austin. So that partnership that we have with UT Austin, we want to share that how we can help students make that transition. And also sometimes, even though the student has met those academic requirements, we have many CAP students that decide to opt out and stay with us at UTSA because the campus, a lot of times they say, well, the campus is a great fit for them. It's not too big, it's not too small, it's just right. They like the fact of the demographic of the student population, whatever the reason may be. A lot of students have conversations with their advisor, the pros and cons of continuing with CAP or staying with us, and we're there to not make that decision for them, but definitely guide them so they can make that best decision for them. The one thing we do not do is we do not advise on UT Austin majors. And this is not uncommon. At any university, you don't advise on course requirements for another institution. So for us at UTSA, an obvious example is we would not advise on course selections for Texas A&M majors or Texas Tech, or even out of state at Stanford or at Harvard. Across the nation, advisors don't advise on other institutions' majors, and this is no exception. Even though UTSA and UT Austin are within the same system, that same UT system, we are still two separate institutions, and we don't cross advise on majors. So this is something that we have to be very clear about. And so if CAP participants want more information about their major, the advisor can definitely point them in the right direction. Where can they start? Coach them on what to ask UT Austin, but we don't advise actually on course selections for their major. So this is something that we want to make sure that we're very clear about. If we go to the next slide, this is a visual of I mentioned a couple of times the approved course list that Austin has approved, and this is visually what it looks like. If you see at the bottom of the slide, that's the link that you can actually go to find this. It's a PDF, and basically, when we meet with the students, it's kind of hard to look at and understand at first glance, but the advisor will help break down how to read this handout. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to ask that CAP student when we meet with each one, first, what courses are you bringing already that you've already got credit for? And we want to mark those off, because what we don't want to do is have a student, as much as we want, we're going to avoid having the student take a course that they potentially already have credit for. The next thing we're going to do is ask that student and assess where are they as far as which math course should they take. And then another requirement that all UTSA students must do, regardless if they're CAP or a traditional Roadrunner, is they must take an AIS course, AIS 1203. UT Austin knows this, and they've actually added this AIS course within the approved CAP list. So when the student takes this course, they will be able to earn credit hours towards the 30 credit hours, and the grade in the course will actually be able to go towards that 3.2 GPA. And in fact, that AIS course will be able to transfer over also. So it's on the CAP list now. And then based on all of these factors and where that student stands with each of these bullets, then the advisor is going to help the student create a schedule for the summer, basically 2 courses, and a schedule for the fall. We're basically about 9 courses. So this is visually looking at this, it's kind of hard to see, but basically the approved CAP list is dissected into categories. And so that first category is rhetoric, the second category is math, and so on, social sciences, political science, and so on. So these are courses that a lot of the Austin majors require, and so do a lot of the UTSA ones, as a matter of fact. If we can go then to the next slide. Oh, so that's the end. So that's the end of my portion of the presentation. So I'm going to hand it back over to Beverly.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sabina. A lot of good information that was sent, that was presented to you all today. So a couple questions that came up in the chat. And for those that are on the phone, please make sure to send your questions to future.utsa.edu/discover/question. And even if you have questions now that you don't want to put in the chat, you can put them there, and we will have a counselor reach out to you either before the end of the day or before early Monday to answer those questions. So please make sure to do that. But there are a couple of questions, Sabina. I think one is, are all CAP students listed under the exploratory major? Can you answer that for us?
No, yes, I can answer that. Yes, in the past, if you know of past CAP participants, they were defaulted to exploratory at UTSA. However, starting with this CAP group, the students are going to be coming in based on their intended UT Austin major. So if there is not, so for example, if the UT Austin intended major is, let's say, psychology, then they will come into UTSA with psychology, with that equivalent major. However, if a CAP student wants a UT Austin major, their intention is, let's just say, aeronautical engineering. UTSA does not have that major, so that student will default to exploratory. So it's going to depend. It's not the way it used to be where all CAP students will be tagged exploratory.
Great, thank you so much. So the other thing is, once a student completes their online orientation, when will they connect or hear from an advisor? Can you give us some insight on that?
Yes, that's a good question. So normally it would have been a fast turnaround, but given the circumstances with all of us going online and just weeding out, and right now, regardless of the COVID-19 situation, right now at UTSA, this is our peak time for our current students with their registration for fall courses. So this is naturally a peak time. And normally we would have seen these CAP students, we would have seen them where it wouldn't have combated with that peak time. It wouldn't have conflicted. But given the circumstances, we are trying to make sure our current students are situated and also trying to reach out to the CAP students in a timely manner. What has been happening, just to give you an idea, is as soon as we find out that, as Lisa mentioned, once the student has completed their orientation process, then we're notified and then we reach out to the students. Given our peak time, it's taking a little longer than what would normally have been the case. So I would say about at least a week at the latest of a turnaround time. If we have some CAP students that have been waiting longer than that, if there's a way that I could get their student ID and we can research that student ID and a contact number, then we could kind of research that. I can help work on that to get that student situated.
Okay, very good. One other question that popped up in the chat. My intended UT Austin major was government, but my UTSA major is exploratory. If I transfer to UT Austin, will I be able to get my intended major of government guaranteed?
The one thing, that's a good question. So the one thing about CAP per UT Austin that is guaranteed is that when the student transitions to UT Austin upon successfully completing the 30 hours and the 3.2 GPA, they will be guaranteed a major of their choice within the College of Liberal and Fine Arts, liberal arts. If the student wants a major outside of that umbrella, there is not a guarantee for that.
Okay, great. And I would assume that is for all others as well. really any major that is in that area.
Correct, right.
Okay, great. A couple other questions that are popping up in the chat. Are there ways to get in touch with other CAP students at UTSA? Lisa, you might be able to answer that question, or anyone in the chat.
All right, so during the summer term, in the summer months, student orientation is working on some opportunities for ways to connect virtually with student groups. And so we'll be messaging out to all of our students that are coming in as new students for summer or fall to provide some virtual opportunities to connect with other students. And there's always opportunities to join student organizations. I know student activities. You can go online and use the Rowdy link to join student groups virtually. All of our student organizations are still meeting, still having opportunities to connect. And so those are ways for you to get involved. I know Sabina went over some of that in her presentation as well. But we are working on virtual opportunities just to connect with other new students, because that's so important. And especially as a CAP group, you know, you have similar concerns and goals. And so I think that that's a great question. So thanks for asking it. And I'll also put it in the chat.
Excellent, thank you. We'll be looking for that in the chat. A couple other questions popped up. One is, do I have to submit meningitis vaccine or proof of meningitis vaccine before meeting with an advisor? So who would be able to answer that? Lisa or Sabina?
I'll open. For the university, okay, so the meningitis, if you think about it, that's really an important, and that's a requirement, is that for that student to physically come on campus. And so because the summer is now going 100% online with its courses, there's a little buy time for the CAP student to take care of that meningitis hold. You should be receiving, all CAP participants should be receiving notifications for an extension on that deadline if you haven't already received that yet. So a long answer to the short question, even if that student still needs to take care of their meningitis, they should still be able to meet with an advisor to get those summer courses situated.
Excellent. And I think we have time for one more question. What percentage of CAP students are admitted to UT Austin? And I'm assuming that that is once they leave from UTSA and go back to UT Austin. Sabina, would you mind answering that one?
Yeah, I can jump in. Okay, so
Great.
I think I'm going to, and the reason why I want to jump in is I'm going to just rephrase that question just a little bit. So not so much which ones actually successfully transitioned to UT Austin. I think the more important question is, what was the percentage that were actually eligible to transition? Because through some, like as I mentioned before, some of our CAP students wanted to opt out, even though they academically met the expectations to go to Austin. Some of the research, it showed that within the past few years, the percentage of students where it used to be a third of the CAP students were eligible to get to UT Austin, that has shifted more closer to about 50%. And the GPA average has gone up within the past few years. So I would say over 50%, I think the last time I looked, don't quote me on this one, this isn't OIR blessed or certified, but just in percentages, I think it was closer to a little over, close to 60 or a little over 60% that were eligible to transition to UT Austin.
Excellent. Okay, great. Well, I know there were great questions in the chat. It looks like there are a couple other things that popped up in the chat with the link, so be mindful of those links. We will also have, if you have, like I said, if you have further questions after we conclude the session, you can go to future.utsa.edu/discover/question, and that is on the slide there. And hopefully someone can put that in the chat as well. But I'm going to ask Amber one more time. Amber, can you give us a quick overview of where, if folks have other questions, where they can go to get those questions answered after this call?
Sure. If you have any other financial aid questions pop up, currently right now our chat feature is closed for One Stop, but they will reopen back for their normal business hours on Monday. And they're open Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, except Wednesdays, they open at 8:30. But you can reach out to them virtually. They have a live chat feature. You can send them an email, or you can make a virtual one-on-one appointment if you need any clarification or you have additional questions popping up over financial aid.
Excellent. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Great questions. Thank you for those that were the presenters and providing that great information. Before we end, please make sure that if you have the app on your phone, there's a virtual UTSA Day survey at the bottom. It is at the bottom of the nav bar. If you can, give us some feedback on your experience. How did we do? What were some things that you'd like to hear more of? And then also, after all of this experience is over, we're going to be giving out some UTSA swag. So you never know, your name might be pulled to get some swag sent to you. So please go back into your app, and it's only on the app on the phone, to fill out the survey and give us some feedback. Guys, thanks again for joining us. Stay well, stay safe. Go Runners.